Hello there, boys and girls, and welcome to It's a Shaw Thing. I'm your host, Rob Shaw. We're talking some fantasy football, getting you ready for Week 8 in the NFL at opensports.com. We have an open huddle. We'll go over every single game coming up this weekend and discuss the fantasy significance of each. Now, if I don't answer all your questions somehow, some way, do email us at fantasy@opensports.com. That's fantasy@opensports.com. We'll get back to you shortly after. Just put it to my attention. All right, my friends, now let's go over every single game. And we'll start off with an ugly one, Oakland against Baltimore. Baltimore defense is a must-start in this one, but for Oakland, only Justin Fargas. McFadden's been limited in practice this week because of turf toe, so I think Fargas will get 25 to 30 carries, which is great news for him. Even if it's not good yards per carry, just the sheer number of carries, he's bound to break loose on one or two of them, which will give him enough fantasy value to start him. As far as Willis McGahee on the other side, you definitely do want to start him, and Derek Mason is off to a good start as well. Next up, Arizona, Carolina. This should be a slugfest. Plenty of points to be put up on the board in this one for Arizona. Kurt Warner is a definite start, as well as Larry Fitzgerald. Anquan Bolden wants to come back. That's up to you. I do suspect he'll be limited, and if that's the case, Steve Breston maintains his value. Edgerrin James asking for the ball a little bit more. He's a decent start in this one for Carolina. Their two running backs, if you're okay with 60 to 80 yards each, you could start them. Otherwise, you might want to hold off. Their passing game should be in fine form. Jake Delhomme, a definite start. Steve Smith, a good start as well. Keep those guys in your lineup. As far as Hackett, I probably would avoid him at this point. All right, next up, Washington going against Detroit. Washington is a must-start in this one, especially Jason Campbell, Clinton Portis, Santana Moss. Start all three of those options. As far as Detroit goes, Calvin Johnson. That's it. Everyone else is either traded or hurt. Not much fantasy value there. Tampa Bay at Dallas. Dallas is beaten up. I like Tampa Bay. Jeff Garcia is a must-start in my opinion. Antonio Bryant maintains his value even with Galloway coming back. He should be fine. For the running backs, Graham is the number one in my mind, and then you could put Warwick Dunn in after. Again, if 40 to 75 yards is enough for you, you could go ahead and throw Warwick Dunn out there. As far as Dallas, they still have the playmakers, which should be enough for Brad Johnson to get good numbers when it comes to passing yards and touchdowns. Might have some interceptions, but in my opinion, the playmakers will be enough to warrant him starting if you're in a deep league or a league that requires two quarterbacks. As far as the wide receivers, probably still want to hold off on Roy Williams, but you do start T.O., you do start Jason Witten, and the running back, Marion Barber, without a healthy Felix Jones, is a definite start in that one. Buffalo going against Miami. Buffalo looked great this past weekend. I would definitely put in Trent Edwards, Lee Evans, Marshawn Lynch. They all start Miami. Well, that Greg Camarillo kid's been pretty good at wide receiver. He's good for deep leagues. As far as the running game, Ronnie Brown's the better option, but he has struggled recently. You still have to put him in because his potential is so high. And again, deep leagues, Chad Pennington has actually performed pretty well this year. Only one game did he throw fewer than 220 passing yards. So that is a guy to certainly start if you're in one of those deep leagues or a league that requires multiple quarterbacks. Next up, St. Louis against New England. St. Louis is starting to improve. Bolger, not the worst start. Remember, the safety for New England is out, so that's good news for him, as well as that rookie Donnie Avery is performing quite well recently. Torrey Holt has been struggling, but if you're in a deep league, you got to put him in there. Steve Jackson, a must start for New England. Pay attention to the injury report on Saturday and Sunday morning. We don't know who it's going to be between Lamont Jordan, Sammy Morris, who's healthy, who's going to be out there. Find out who it is and certainly do start them. As far as the passing game, Castle's an all-right option. I'm not too high on him. I like some of the other names I mentioned, such as Garcia and Campbell. But if you have to, you could certainly start him. I definitely would start Randy Moss. Wes Welker's a must-start as well. As far as looking at San Diego and New Orleans, again, this one should be a fun one. LaDainian Tomlinson's injury has allowed this team to start passing the ball more, so Philip Rivers enjoying a career year. I certainly would start him, Vincent Jackson, and Antonio Gates, and still LT must start, of course. As far as New Orleans goes, Colston should be back 100% this time around, so he should give you some decent numbers. I would start him. Probably want to bench Lance Moore. Definitely want to start Drew Brees. Reggie Bush out. Deuce McAllister in. He's your starter. He's the guy who's going to give you some points. Next up, Kansas City against the New York Jets. Thomas Jones is going to have a huge day in this one, I promise you. Brett Favre is an all-right option. As far as who he's going to throw the ball to, that's all about who's healthy. Right now, we don't know about Coles. We don't know about Contry. Do your homework. Find out before you put them in. You don't want a donut. Now, Bubba Franks is going to be out at tight end. Dustin Keller, the rookie, should be in for a decent day in this one. If you're in a deep league that requires a tight end, you could start him. For KC, remember, Johnson is suspended or benched in this one, so you don't want to mess with him. First two quarterbacks are out for KC. I'd start Tony Gonzalez at tight end. Aside from him, not even Bo. I'd probably want to avoid all of them. Next up, Atlanta against Philly. You got to start Michael Turner in every game at this point. Same thing with Roddy White. Good for him, having a nice second year after the great year he had last year. He's been in the league a little while, but now second straight strong seasons for him. For Philadelphia, Philadelphia, fresh off a bye, means Kevin Curtis returns. Might want to wait, see what he gives you before putting him in your lineup. But Deshaun Jackson at wide receiver has been great. You do want to start him. Looks like Brian Westbrook's healthy. You do want to start him. And Donovan McNabb should be in for a nice performance as well. I would start him. Cleveland against Jacksonville. Derek Anderson, like his last rights here once again, he's got to perform well. Otherwise, he will get benched. Doesn't help that Kellen Winslow is suspended, but Braylon Edwards will be there. I do want to start him. Jamal Lewis is a good start as well. For Jaguars, definitely start Mojo. Fred Taylor, not a bad option. The Cleveland rush defense is pretty poor. David Garrard, if you're in a very deep league, you can start him. I'd start the other guys that I mentioned earlier over him, though. As far as the wide receivers, Matt Jones, last chance before he has to go on his little suspension for 3 games. I'd probably start Jones, actually. I think he's having a nice year so far. Definitely want to invest in him. Next up, looking at Cincinnati and Houston. This should be a good one. It's all about Ryan Fitzpatrick being able to get his playmakers the ball. I'd start Chad Johnson. He's been improving lately in his performance. Cedric Benson, this is his chance to prove himself at the running back position. Last weekend it was against Pittsburgh. Now he gets some breathing room against Houston. I think he could do well. So if you're in a deep league, you might want to throw the hat over at Cedric Benson and see how he performs for you, because he will be the starting running back in this one. Fitzpatrick, if you're in a deep league, could be engaged in a shootout, so he could be an all right option, as well as Hushmanzada, but make sure he's healthy. Next up, as far as Houston, start everyone. They are fantastic this year. Schaub is reaching his peak right now. Quarterback, he's great. Johnson's an elite wide receiver, no question about it. Walter, not a bad second option either, but Owen Daniels, I love him at tight end. I know he might not give you the touchdowns, but his consistency is in his receiving yards, which is actually a good thing as far as tight ends go. New York Giants against Pittsburgh. This could be an interesting one. I probably would not start Eli Manning. Burris is probably the only wide receiver I'd start for the Giants as well. Brandon Jacobs should be all right, but the Steelers' defense is very, very good. So only start him if you really need to, and there's not many better options out there. For instance, I'd put Deuce McAllister in this week before I would put in Brandon Jacobs. For Pittsburgh, Hines Ward, Antonio Holmes, you definitely want to start Willie Parker, expected to be back, so Moelde Moore, might want to keep him on the bench, and you might want to keep Willie Parker on the bench until you see him get 20 carries and continue to perform the way he did earlier in the season. Big Ben Roethlisberger should be a decent start. It's all about the line giving him some time, and I have a feeling they will. Remember, the Giants' defense didn't look that great a couple of weeks ago. Big Ben could be in for a nice performance here. Seattle against San Fran. This is an ugly one. For San Fran, JT O'Sullivan's job is pretty much hinging in this game. I'd consider starting him against Seattle because they are a little banged up and not all that good this season. Only if you have to, though. Josh Morgan, wide receiver, a rookie for San Fran, has also been impressive, but you might want to wait and see before starting him in this one. For Seattle, not crazy about any of the guys, to be honest. It's a split backfield, not much interest there. Wide receivers are a little banged up also. Frank Gore for San Fran, forgot to mention him. Definitely start him. And finally, Indianapolis going against Tennessee. Peyton Manning coming off one of the worst performances of his career. Same thing for Marvin Harrison. I am not going to expect a rebound against one of the best teams, or really the best team in the NFL so far, which is Tennessee. For Tennessee, I consider starting Chris Johnson. I don't know about Lendo White, but I consider starting Chris Johnson, and that's pretty much it. There's not much of a passing game there. If you want to throw something else in there, maybe the defense for the Titans. They've been good so far this season. They should be pretty good once again, even going against a team that, well, won the championship just a couple years ago. Well, my friends, we brought you Open Huddle for OpenSports.com. If we did not answer some of your questions, do contact us. Fantasy@OpenSports.com. We'll have a great weekend. We'll talk more football right here at OpenSports.com on Monday. Have a great weekend.
So you think you can tackle a pro? There's only one way to find out. Click on Fantasy at OpenSports.com.